A realm previously unimagined lies before you. A realm with endless possibilities, limited only by your imagination. A realm where reality and fantasy are one and the same. Welcome to Out of Character.
Hey, welcome to Out of Character RPG, and today I'm doing something different. This is not, as you can see, it's not a game that's being played, or I'm not going to review a book, but I want to really have a serious talk about what people have been speaking about. That D&D 5e will be removing or changing, not removing, but changing the orc race. And some people believe that it's the characters are in some ways racist, and that they want to change it so that way there won't be racism in the game itself. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Now, I do want to say this is a touchy subject, and the truth of the matter is, I have to have a couple of drinks before I decided to come on and record this. And the reason for that is, we live in a society where it's almost hard to even talk your opinion sometimes, because, maybe it's not the same views that other people have. And because of that, they want to shut you down or keep you quiet. This has been, once I heard about this, it was really in my heart that I really, really wanted to make a video about just how I feel about it. How my kids feel about it, how we on the show, my friends on the show. So I do want to say right off the bat that, and you're probably going to wonder why, but I want to let you know that I'm Hispanic. I'm a Puerto Rican. I never had to say that before, but I feel I need to say that right now. And the reason for that is so that way there'll be some grace, right? Some people might be listening to this, watching me, and then saying, oh, what does he know about race, right? So I am a minority. Matter of fact, everybody on my show, all my kids, we're all Puerto Rican, we're all Hispanic. We also have one of my best friends. He's Cuban. He's on the show. We're all Hispanic, every single one of us. We're all minorities, and yet while we were talking about making these, when we heard this, we all had our conversation concerning it and our opinions about it. But a lot of the truth is, a lot of my friends and my sons are fearful of making a video due to backlash of just because they might have a different opinion than other people concerning the orcs. We're talking about concerning the orcs. So, but I just thought that it'd be really good for at least for me. I'm one that needs to speak my mind. So this whole thing about orcs and that they represent certain races, and that because of that, the orcs need to be changed, and I look at that and it confuses me. And what I think about it is what is D&D? What's Dungeons and Dragons? We all know the definition of Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy tabletop role-playing game. Fantasy, right? And even if in the player's handbook, 5e, on page 4, if you look, it says that they went on to invent Dungeons and Dragons and thereby ignite a revolution in gaming, and that continues to this day. Speaks to two things. First, it speaks to ingenuity and genius in figuring out that games were the perfect way to explore worlds that could not otherwise be existed. So it's about worlds that don't exist. I mean, this is in the player handbook of Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Almost every modern game, I'm still reading, whether played on a digital device or tabletop, owes some debt to D&D. And then it goes on to say, playing D&D is an exercise in collaborative creation. It's all fake. It's creation. It's all of us getting together and playing, a fantasy, right? It continues to say, above all else, D&D is yours. The friendships you make around the table will be unique to you. The adventures you embark on, the characters you create, the memories you make will be yours. D&D is your personal corner of the universe, a place where you have free reign to do as you wish. The Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game is about storytelling in worlds of swords and sorcery. It shares elements with childhood games and make believe, make believe. It's fake. It's not real. This is straight from 5e, right? So D&D is fantasy. And what's the definition of fantasy? Fantasy is the ability or activity of imagining things, especially things that are impossible or improbable, right? It's fake things. It's impossible things. And not for nothing, I play D&D and I play it because it's an escapism for me personally. And what is escapism? I mean, you think about the definition. The definition is the tendency to seek distractions and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. That's escapism. I don't. When I play Dungeons and Dragons, I don't want politics in my Dungeons and Dragons, except game politics in the storyline. But I don't. It's an escapism from real unpleasant realities. And that's what that word means. And yet it's almost as if people are trying to put reality into Dungeons and Dragons. And I think it's a disservice to the game. And when I think about orcs, orcs were always, and I played since 1975. The beginning, the very first Dungeons and Dragons, they were always the antagonists. I'm just, when I think about it and how some individuals are looking at it and trying to say that it represents other race, I never saw that. I don't see it. I mean, I even look at the Monster Manual, and on the Monster Manual on page 244, where it describes orcs, it says, orcs are savage raiders and pillagers with stooped postures, low foreheads, and piggish faces with prominent low canines that resemble tusk. They don't look like any human I know, or anybody I know, or any race I know. And it even goes on further. It talks about how their behavior that they have. That's not any race that I know nowadays. That's not no race. So I when I'm thinking about that, like, is it because certain individuals are placing their beliefs about that? I think we have to be careful. And why do I say that? I think about in when I used to play Dungeons and Dragons in the early 80s, and I remember that there was a certain group of Christians that used to condemn it, and they were saying, "Oh, it's Satan worship. Oh, it's it's going to make people violent. It's going to make people suicide. It's going to get people psychotic." Do you remember that? Those who are the older generation will probably remember that, right? But did it do those things? No, of course not. But yet these were the beliefs of individuals, right? And they tried to push those. They tried to stop Dungeons and Dragons in the 80s, 90s. They were like targeting moral panic in society because of these views that these individuals had about the game itself. And there is no proof. There is no scientific proof that Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, is racist in any way. That orcs is racist. Having orcs is racist. And that I guess that's my concern. Like, where are we taking Dungeons and Dragons? I've always known Dungeons and Dragons throughout my life to bring people together. All kinds of people. All kinds of backgrounds. All kinds of beliefs. Like, Dungeons and Dragons is wonderful. It never tears people apart. It doesn't promote racism. And yet here we are, 2020. And we're saying that these things are racist. Orcs promotes racism. I mean, what's the next thing? That the whole premise of Tolkien, Lord of the Rings? Are we going to just do away with the films because we might interpret them as racist? Everything that all Dungeons & Dragons was built on? And even goblins, way before even Tolkien, they were always perceived as evil. It's an antagonist race. And I'm just really concerned about where is this taking the game. Because I don't believe Dungeons & Dragons is political. Again, there's politics in the campaigns, but the game itself is not political. Why make it that? Why do we have to do that? That's my question to you, right? All I've seen was that it brings races together, cultures together. So here, that's my my belief is no, orcs aren't racist. It's not. And D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, is not promoting racism. It's not. And there's no good scientific evidence to back up that it's racist. You know, there's real issues around race now in America. Things we need to work on. But as far as D&D goes, let's just get back to gaming and having fun and uniting and loving one another, just having a good time. Those are my thoughts. You may not agree with it. Hey, comment. If you agree, come on, comment. If you don't agree, comment. Give me a thumbs up if you at least found this interesting, this video. Let's have a conversation, right? What do you think about this? Thank you.